Hey guys, if you are hearing me, just let me know. It's been a little while since I've done a live stream, so I just want to make sure everything is working correctly before we get started into things. Hey Julian, hey Fun Disney fan, thank you for joining. Man, I miss doing these. I guess the last time I did this was actually in the parks last month, but this has been a while since I've been sitting here doing this. Hi human person. Great. I'm so glad you guys can hear me. Cool. So today's topic was actually chosen by a bunch of you guys. I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about, but had quite a few comments come in to talk about solo trip planning. So one was from Steve Pinn. He asked how I plan my solo trips. Another from Bill P. is planning a solo trip in the fall, wanted to know what month I recommended, and tips for doing parties. Tam Freeman also wanted to know if she should do an after hours party as a solo trip person. So I feel like this is a continued thread. A lot of people doing their solo trips, a lot of people wondering if extra events and tickets are worth it. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But in general, really wanted to invite a lot of you who are considering solo trips or maybe planning a solo trip to ask me your questions, because I've done a bunch of them already and I think they're fantastic. You guys know that I'm a huge proponent for solo trips. I think they are wonderful. I guess we'll talk a little bit about just how I plan them. Hey Nate and Bree, hey Jurassic Fork, that is a great name. I love that. Hey Gavin, I will answer a question in a second. But anyway, for solo trips, it's weird. I feel like I plan them very last minute. It's a lot easier to plan than when you're trying to plan with a group, right? Because when you have a group of people, you got to work out everyone's schedules. You got to figure out where people want to stay. Are they staying separately? Who's flying down when? Who's leaving when? How do we get everyone together for restaurants and for park days and all of that? And I feel like for a solo trip, you have a lot more freedom to last minute make trip plans, which is something I do a lot. Because I have the annual pass and because I'm in New York, so not too far, so I don't mind doing weekend trips. So I feel like solo trip planning is a little less intense than when I'm with other people, especially picking a time frame, because I kind of just go when works for me. I don't have to worry about anybody else. I don't have to figure out anyone else's schedule or anything like that. And then I think from there, for me, I'm very budget conscious when it comes to solo trips because I'm one person staying in one room. I'm not splitting the costs with anybody. So I want to save as much money as I can on my trip. So you guys might notice I stay at All Stars a lot on my solo trips. A couple of times I've upgraded to a moderate if the price was close enough, not so expensive of a jump. But mostly I'm trying to think about, I'm paying for a room alone. I'm not splitting it with Rob or any of my other friends. So I need to make this as affordable as possible. Same thing with flights. I'm a lot more flexible about when I'm going to fly. I'll pick flight times that are cheaper because it's just me and I don't have to worry about anybody else. Hi Jacob Schmidt. Hi Lillian. Just want to say hey. Oh, I'm so glad that you're doing a solo trip, Lillian. Tell me when you're planning to do it. Is it this year? Is it next year? I'd love to help you out with that. And then I think I'm a planner, so I still do I have a small Google Sheets where I plan out my days and I just say okay, let me look at park hours. Let me see what's extra magic hours, what's the longest hours for each day, and how I can plan out my parks. Since I have annual pass, I'm always park hopping. I'm a big fan of park hopping. So I will try to fit multiple parks into one day. And I'll sit there and I'll say okay, I'm going for 5 days. Let me mark out each part that I'm going to go to based on the hours. What makes the most sense? When am I going to get the most time in? And then after I figure that out is when I start to look at restaurant reservations. I am not a person who reserves restaurant reservations 180 days out. Well, one, because I'm probably not planning the trip that far out. But two, as one person, you do not have to worry about booking that far out. You just don't. you're going to get restaurants so much easier as one person. And again, if you have flexibility, if it doesn't matter to you what time, you can scoop up things really last minute. So after I figure out part days, then I figure out restaurants, and I figure out how many sit downs do I want, and then if I want to do more quick service, again, thinking about like budget. But I've never felt like I couldn't get what I wanted. I've booked restaurants a week out as one person, and have been totally fine getting what I need. Same thing with fast passes, except for the big ones. Obviously, if I want Pandora, I have to do the 60-day out thing, even as one person, because it's still so highly coveted. And I'm sure the same thing is going to go with Toy Story Land. But that's like the only thing I really focus on. Like, I'll do the 60 days out to just see if I can get Flight of Passage or something. And then I won't even worry about the other fast passes in that moment. I mean, if I feel like it, I will, but I'll usually deal with them later because, again, as one person, way easier to get fast passes. So I think when you're solo, the planning ahead is just not as necessary as when you're dealing with other people, because you're making all your own choices and you have more flexibility and, you know, all of that. So it definitely isn't as time consuming as it would be like when I go with groups. Okay, I want to get back to a question real quick that Gavin asked because it was a little bit ago. Going in July to Disney World and staying at the beach club. My fast pass day is next week. I'm so excited. Any tips for room upgrades? Ask. I mean, that's honestly the best thing that you can do. The worst thing that they're gonna say is no. And like, really, that's not the worst thing in the world, right? So you can always ask if you're checking in at the desk, like you haven't done online check-in. So for the most part, if they have a room, they might be able to put you in it. And worst case, they say no. I know when I got upgraded in Coronado a couple of trips ago, completely out of the blue, like I did full online check-in, did not walk up to a cast member. All of a sudden I get my room number and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, I paid for like a standard room. Like, this seems off. And then they upgraded to me to like some crazy like king suite room. And Rob was with me he was in a different hotel with Kat, but I was in a room by myself that was this huge suite. It was absurd. Like, it was like too big for one person. But it was completely random. Like, had no idea until I saw the app update. So you never, ever, ever know. But if you're actually talking to a cast member, just ask. I mean, if they say no, they say no. But like, you might as well give it a shot, right? Lillian says she's doing pin trading, which she thinks is a great thing to do when you're in Disney World solo. Yeah, I mean, that's really awesome if you want to like interact with more people in a way that doesn't feel awkward or anything. I know sometimes like talking to somebody online might be weird when you're by yourself, but pin trading's just a social interactive thing, right? So it is a really good thing to do. That is a great tip, Lillian. Daffy Stardust says, I stay at values mostly, but I tend to spend more money on meals when I'm solo so I can serve my own tastes more. Agree. So I'm of the same mindset. I like to spend a little less on the room because I am not spending as much time in the resorts, and I care about a roof over my head and a bed, and that's about it. But I will definitely do more table service because I am just one of those people who likes to try more different things, and it's hard to do when you're with a group. Maybe they don't want to eat at Sanaa or like whatever restaurant. So I do try to treat myself more with food as well, because I think like that's a perfect time to go eat at the places you've always wanted to. Human Person says, what about character dining as a solo? Do you mind discussing this? Yeah, I've done this before. So I did character dining at Tusker House, which was super fun. The only thing I would say was a downside to that was because I was one person, they put me at like a table for two. And they kind of put me like in the back. Like they kind of put me in a back corner. And I totally understand that like when you've got whole groups of families, like, you know, you got to figure out the seating. But that was the only thing that kind of sucked. I felt like I was just kind of like shoved in the back a little bit. But they still brought the characters around, which was super fun. We actually did some selfies. I mean, the cast members came and took photos for me as well. But my favorite photos was taking a selfie with Donald and a selfie with Goofy. And they will spend just as much attention with you. Like, they definitely don't like make you feel weird. They don't rush things with you. They'll definitely come around to you. And again, I never felt too strange. I mean, that was okay too, because it was also a buffet. So, you know, you're just like getting up, getting your food, coming back, kind of doing things on your own terms. But I thought it was going to be weird, to be honest, and it ended up being a really, really fun experience. So I say go and do it. And just remember, I've always said this before, like, there are a lot of solo travelers. It's not a weird thing for the cast members. Like, they know how to deal with that. They're not going to make you feel awkward. So if you want to do character dining, I say do it. Hello from Wales. Awesome. So happy to see people across the pond. Hope everything is doing well over there. I know you guys were just doing the whole royal wedding thing. I mean, a lot of us here were doing the whole royal wedding thing. Goes right over my head. I don't follow any of that stuff, so I've not been caught up in any of that stuff at all. Jacob Schmidt, did your weather get any better? It actually is beautiful here now. So I was complaining how I was missing Disney, and then I know people were saying, well, it's raining here. It was raining here for 5 days in a row, so I would have rather been in Disney dealing with that. But today got really weirdly warm. It's like 80 and humid. Total 180 from what the weather was here. Fun Disney fan says, should I pay money for Disney after hours for me and my sister? I'm trying to decide if the price is worth it. What are your thoughts? So I haven't done this yet because it wasn't something that was offered on my last trip, but I've been considering it. I have heard nothing but good things. And I know that sometimes it can be tough for someone to want to spend more money either on top of a ticket or I guess in addition to essentially just have more hours in the park, right? But everything that I've heard is that because, you know, it's a smaller event and because it's really just to get some time on the rides, you do apparently walk onto things. I have seen some really cool photos of people like by themselves on rides, like because nobody's really there. And I think that's such a neat experience to have. So I have been thinking about doing it even as a solo person. And I think that even though during the day, obviously I can get on rides fairly well as one person, like the idea of being able to, I don't know, walk on an almost empty train car for like Big Thunder is just really, really cool to me and gets you some really cool photo ops. And apparently just walking around the parks is just so much more relaxed and nicer and there's less people. And I guess if you're a photographer, that would be an awesome time to go get photos. So like, I think that it could be worth it. And like I said, from everything I've heard, people have really felt like it was worth it. So to me, that's definitely been like a deciding factor in if I'm going to do it in the future or not. Raining every day this week in Orlando. I know, I saw crazy photos of Magic Kingdom just absolutely flooded. But like I said, still would have rather been there. So I'm looking at a couple of other questions that I had. Okay, so Bill P specifically said that he's going for a solo trip in fall. And he wanted to know if I recommend October or November, and again, doing parties as a solo person. So, you know, October, November, I think November's fine if you do it before Thanksgiving. Like, you want to do it before the holiday rush. So, like, that first 2 weeks of November. It's obviously a little bit cooler than October, but even October starts to get better than, like, September. You can still hit days in the 80s. You can still have plenty of pool days, so it's not like you'll be missing out on that. I think also if you do beginning of November, I'm pretty sure Not So Scary Halloween Party runs into, like, the first week or so of November. Like, they super extend it. So you would still get to do that if that's something you're interested in. Food and wine also. Food and wine just gets longer and longer every year. It's kind of absurd. Like, I feel like at some point Food and wine is just going to be like 6 months out of the year. I like both months. I don't think you can go wrong with either as long as you're avoiding major holidays. And like, obviously, if you went to like the Halloween party on Halloween, that's going to be a lot crazier than any other day. But fall is, it used to be my favorite time to go. I feel like now it's getting busier. So now it is my second favorite time to go. My new favorite time to go is like January, February. But fall is just so cool. I mean, Food and Wine and Not So Scary Halloween Party are my two favorite events. I'm a huge Halloween fan, so of course I'm going to recommend that you do it then. As for doing a party solo, I can't say that I've done that yet. I've done parties with a couple of friends. I've not done them solo as of yet, but I 100% want to. Like, that was something I was actually looking into this year. And again, I don't think going to party solo is any different from going to a park solo, period. Like, I really think it's very much the same sort of experience. I don't think it's any more awkward or anything like that. And I mean, why would you not want to miss like the amazing fireworks and parades and all of that? And one great thing about being a solo person for parades, you can like really roll up last minute and find a spot. And I'm not saying like be a jerk and get in front of people, but I'm saying like as one person, it is so much easier to find an open area than if you were like trying to roll up with 6 people like 2 minutes before the parade. Like, it's kind of amazing how last minute you can be for things like that, because you're just a single body trying to like find a spot. So that's a really big perk of going solo. Heavy Rescue 34 says, been watching your videos for a while and just started listening to the TTA podcast, and it's awesome. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys have been listening. Now I'm considering getting annual pass holder for myself, wife, and daughter. I think it's totally worth it if you know you are going more than once and each trip is at least like 5 days. If you do 2 trips around like 5 days, an annual pass is worth it. And if you do more, then you're like making it even more worth it. Like, I've done the math. And yeah, basically once you go over about like 10 days or so, you're starting to cut down the cost daily of like what a park ticket would be. And it's totally worth it. And then you've got all the discounts on shopping and restaurants and things like, you know, going to the spa or some of the water sports stuff. So if that's stuff that interests you, like, it's cool to get an extra 15%, 20% off of things. Human Person says, just curious, if you do end up coming to Disneyland in October, would you consider collaborating with Nate, Bree, AP if it works for each party? Yes. We've actually been talking about this. Nate and I talk quite a bit. I'm actually going to be having them on soon for a unpopular Disney opinion, which I'm really excited for. He told me what it's going to be, and it's going to be a really good video. But so I'm 100% going to Disneyland. This is 100% a thing now. I was kind of iffy before. So in October, I have a wedding that is in an area, I don't know California very well, so I don't know this area very well, but it's called Simi Valley. Am I saying that right? I hope I'm saying that right. So we're going to a wedding, my husband and I. We are driving down to Anaheim. We're doing Disneyland for about 2.5 days. We'll be meeting up with my friend Keith Lappening as well. And then after that, we're going to San Diego for about 4 days, which is really exciting because I have never been there. So definitely doing Disneyland. I believe October, I want to say 7th and 8th are the exact dates. I need to double check that. And I'm really excited. It'll be my second time ever. And yes, I've talked to Nate and Bree, and we're definitely supposed to be trying to meet up and do something together. So very excited to see my Disneyland YouTube folks. Fun Disney fan says, I just went to Universal for my first time last Friday. I know you went, and was wondering on some of your comparisons between Universal and Disney. Yeah, so I don't really go to Universal a lot. I went last year, and before that, it was like 2009. So that shows you how often I go to Universal. I went specifically because of Harry Potter. I am a big Harry Potter fan. overall, if we're just looking at parks overall, I still think Disney far and away beats Universal as an experience for me. But I do think Harry Potter was incredibly impressive. Incredibly impressive. And I think that the good thing about that is because their theming is just so amazing, it forces Disney to keep pushing their theming. You know, like competition's great. It's a great thing. I think that for me, I do want to go back to Universal again because I think Harry Potter itself is worth it. I did the 2-park ticket, rode the Hollow Arts Express, almost cried when I saw it the first time. I think it's just a phenomenal experience. My problem with Universal is when you get out of Harry Potter, you're just like, oh, okay, it's like just a theme park. I don't know. It comes off to me like a little more expensive, a little more better themed Six Flags sometimes. I'm sorry for people who love Universal, but that's just how I kind of feel. I do love thrill rides, so I like them for that because they do have a lot of coasters. But I think sometimes it's a jarring experience going from Harry Potter areas to the rest of Universal because I don't feel like the theming is as consistently strong. And Disney, I feel like you just have consistent theming no matter where you are. Kate Mahoney says, where are the value resorts located, like closest to which park area? So the All-Stars and Pop and Art of Animation are all not too far from each other. And I think the closest park is Hollywood Studios and Epcot are the 2 closest parks. I remember the bus ride to Hollywood Studios being like just under 10 minutes. And Epcot just slightly longer than that because those 2 parks are actually pretty close to each other. I would put them furthest, I believe, from like Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. But still, don't let me saying that deter you because when I say further, I mean the bus ride to Magic Kingdom is still only like 15 minutes. And to Animal Kingdom is still only like 12 or 13 minutes. It's not like a huge disparity in terms of distance. But yeah, you're going to be closer to like Hollywood Studios, Epcot area at the values. Actually, you're right, Human Person. All-Stars are a little bit closer to Animal Kingdom. Pop and Art of Animation is a little bit closer to Hollywood Studios and Epcot. So, correction. Julian says, thoughts on Pixar Pier. Which one is better, Paradise Pier or Pixar Pier? So, I've only been to Disneyland once so far in 2015. And so I've seen Paradise Pier. And I will be seeing Pixar Pier for the first time in October. The thing is, they're kind of the same, right? I mean, a lot of it's just kind of a re-theming. So I don't know if I would say Pixar Pier to me takes away anything from Paradise Pier, but I also can't give you an honest answer until I see it. I did love California Screamin', and I hope that Incredicoaster can be as good of an experience, like an overall experience, but I'll come back to that in October. I did like Paradise Pier because I did love that whole vibe. But I do love Pixar stuff, so who knows? Kate says also, how do you keep yourself from getting bored during long queues on a solo trip? So one, I would say that I don't actually wait that long as a solo person because you can get fast passes really easily. Like after you use your first 3 and you can add on fast passes, it's so easy as a solo person to literally get one that's like in the next 10 minutes or next 20 minutes. And you've got the ability of single rider on a few rides like Everest and Test Track and Rock and Roller Coaster. And then even still, being one person, I have always skipped the line because cast members always need to fill in somebody. This is especially true at Tower of Terror, at Space Mountain. I've had it happen at Splash. When they're going down the line, they're saying, do we have a party of 1? I mean, raise your hand because you can skip literally like 15 people sometimes as they're trying to just fill in extra seats. So even though they don't have single rider lines, you can actually save yourself like a good 10 minutes at the end. If I am waiting for a really long time, my phone's fun. I mean, We all got a smartphone. Sometimes I've live streamed with you guys to keep busy. I'm a big gamer, so if you have the ability to bring something, a PS Vita, a Nintendo Switch, maybe you're just gaming on the phone, I think that also really helps. I see a lot of people, I haven't really done this myself, but I do see a lot of solo people bring books. So that's another thing they can do, is read. You might not be able to read in, like, I don't know, Space Mountain's queue, because I feel like it'd be super dark. You need, like, a little reading lamp, and then you just look weird. But there are definitely plenty of things to do to kind of pass the time when you're waiting by yourself. I mean, you can also, if you're a social person, you can talk to people. Sometimes I'm not a social person. That sounds terrible. I'm a little bit socially awkward when I'm by myself. But I've been brought into conversations unexpectedly, and they've ended up being really cool. And I've talked to some really neat people online. So that's another way you can pass the time. Jeffrey says, hey, Ivy, I love you and Rob's channel. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all you guys being here. Don't forget to hit the like button because it does help me out. It lets other people see that I'm live, and it just helps out the channel. So make sure you're hitting that like button. Human Person says, oh my God, I live in San Diego. Definitely go to Belmont Park, located in I was gonna say Mission Bay. What is going on with me? Mission Bay. And try the Dole Whip. Many say it's better than Disney. Oh my God, I didn't know they had Dole Whips there. Okay, so we're actually trying to figure out where we're staying in Mission Bay, maybe? An area we're staying? We're looking at hotels. But oh my God, now I have to do this. I have to do this for the vlog, if for nothing else, and try those Dole Whips. That sounds amazing. WDW2 says, what would you prefer? Mediocre food with lots of character meats, or fantastic food and few character meats? The second. I love food. I'm a big foodie. I live in New York. We have amazing restaurants here, so I guess I'm a little spoiled. I don't like to really, I don't know, downgrade just for like character stuff. I love characters, don't get me wrong, but I love a good meal any day. So I will take that over lots of character meats. Lily Lopez says, do you know how much time before the park opens do the buses start running? Usually 45 minutes to an hour. I believe 45 minutes is the standard of what they say. So if you are trying to go for a rope drop, yeah, you could line up about 45 minutes before and get on a bus and get to the parks. If you want to get there even earlier, I would say take a cab. But yes, generally they start to run them about that early. And I think they run buses, I think it's somewhere like 2 hours after park closes. I have seen them do it longer because you've always got stragglers and they're not going to like let you be stranded. But yeah, generally it's about 45 minutes to an hour before and about 2 hours after. Fun Disney Fan says, looking into Garden Grill for my next trip. Should I do it? I really liked Garden Grill. I did it for my first time a couple of trips ago with Rob and Kat, and we had a really great time. It's really weird when you're moving and you don't realize it until... So what happened for us is when you go to the bathroom in Garden Grill, you actually have to leave the rotating area to go to the bathroom. And at one point I was like, all right, I'm gonna get up and go to the bathroom, and then realized that we were rotated all the way to the other side. And I was just like, how did this happen? Like, it happened so slowly. And you're just like, how were we moving this entire time? And then, yeah, characters come around to you. We had the funniest interaction with Pluto during that meal that was just so special and hilarious. He was trying to balance a fork on his nose. It became this whole crazy thing. So the characters there are really great, and the food's really good. It's just like family style. You kind of share everything. It's a little difficult for me because I'm allergic to red meat, and they did have some of that there. But when I told them, they were able to give me some extra stuff that I could eat. So I really liked it. I thought it was good. I don't know if the food was like phenomenal, but it was good, and the whole character experience was great. Amy Linda says, what are your favorite things to do at your resort when you are solo? So I admit that I tell myself that I'm going to spend more time at the resort, and then I don't. I'm such a like commando Disney person, even when I'm by myself, though I do slow down a lot more than with people, but I just want to go. I just want to be at the parks. I have done a spa day on my own, not a full day, like half a day, which is really, really awesome. And, you know, I just kind of budget-wise was like, okay, you know, if I skip one or two sit-down meals, you know, I can pay for a massage, basically. So that was fun. I like pool days. I like sitting by the pool. That's always really cool, too. And in general, I like people watching. Like, I sometimes will get back to the resort kind of early before, like, Magical Express when I have to go home. And I just enjoy people watching around the resort. I know that sounds kind of, like, boring, but I just like doing that. Joseph Stewart says, do you know if the minivans run earlier than the buses? That is a good question, and I do not know. That's my honest answer. I don't know off the top of my head if they run any earlier. I would imagine that they do, but I'm honestly not sure. But I think in that kind of scenario, I mean, you can always rely on an Uber or a Lyft or something like that if you need to get in a cab earlier. Lillian Barr says, do you ever do any tours? I'm going to the Keys to the Kingdom. God, I really can't talk today. I'm a bit nervous doing it alone, but on the other hand, doing it solo saves me persuading someone doing a tour for 5 hours. I still need to do that one because, yeah, it's 5 hours. So I'm trying to convince myself to just spend 5 hours on that tour. I hear it's amazing. I have done 2 tours solo. I have done Behind the Seeds in Epcot, and I did Caring for Giants in Animal Kingdom, which is like their elephant tour. I won't lie, I think the first time I did a tour, I felt a little weird. It was a small group. I think it was only 6 or 7 of us, and I was the only solo person. And it was a little weird because when the tour guide was asking where everybody was from, they like made an assumption that I was with this like one group that I was standing near, and I had to awkwardly be like, I'm from New York alone right now. But you know what? I think after that first 5 minutes, I just kind of got into the groove of it, was listening to the guide, was so into what was going on that I just really didn't care as much anymore. It's not like anyone else around me was like, whoa, why are you here by yourself? You know, nobody questioned it or anything like that. So, and I'm really, really glad that I did it because once I did and I got over that fear, I did Caring for Giants, which was super awesome. And now I want to do so many more tours. So, and it's also kind of nice being solo. I mean, sometimes I've hung around after a tour and like talked a little bit more with the tour guide and had a little bit of a one-on-one, which is really great. So don't fear it. It might be a little awkward at first. That's my honest answer to you, but I say do it because, like you said, I mean, you don't need to convince anyone else to do a 5-hour tour, but if you really want to do it, and I've heard Keys to the Kingdom is so good, so I wouldn't pass up on that opportunity. Lion, hey Lion, is it true that the Whispering Canyon Cafe is getting rid of their silliness? So they have put out a statement, like for people inquiring, saying like we need to be mindful of the guests at the Wilderness Lodge. From what I've heard, and this is all rumors, so I don't really know, is that, you know, there have been guest complaints about, I guess, the sound. But on the flip side, I've heard that there's a lot of people who have stayed in the rooms right there and said that it's all soundproofed and they can't hear it. So I don't know. Maybe they had a couple of lousy complaints and so they decided to tone it down. From what I've heard, it's not gone, but it's not as crazy. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Personally, I wish they would still keep things the way that they were. But again, I don't really know the whole story. But yeah, it's a shame if they do get rid of a lot of the antics because that was a big thing that made people go there. Human person says, any other suggestions, places to eat in Animal Kingdom other than Yak? I'm actually not a big fan of Yak and Yeti at all. So there's that. I would recommend Tiffin's. Little more expensive, really good. But if you want more of a chill and smaller menu, Nomad Lounge, which is connected to it, is also really good. And I think Satuli Canteen is like the best quick service on Disney property, period. The one in Pandora. It's delicious, and they give you so much food. Like, I feel like every time I get a bowl of whatever from there, I can't finish it. They give you so much food. So those are two places that I recommend. Flame Tree Barbecue is pretty consistently good too. So I would save those. But yeah, I'm not the biggest Yak and Yeti fan. I think their food's okay. Lillian, there's a few solo individuals on our tour. Talk to others in the tour. Prepare questions for the tour guide. That's advice from WDW2. That is great advice. Yeah, definitely think of some questions you'd want to ask. And yeah, don't be afraid to chat with other people. I know in Caring for Giants, I was talking to this mom and her daughter who were actually from the East Coast. They were from Pennsylvania, so we were talking about that. And I think that definitely really helps. But again, nobody cares or minds that you're by yourself. Human Person says, do resort charge per night or per day? And what time is checkout? It's per night. So if you're on a 5-day trip, you're only paying for 4 nights. Checkout is usually 11 a.m. I'm pretty sure across the board for most resorts. You can try to call downstairs and ask for an extension. It is hard to do because they just have so many people and there's a lot of turnover, and the mousekeeping needs time to clean your room for the next person. So, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but 11 a.m. is usually the checkout time. What I do is I usually plan my flight is like 7:30 at night on my last day. So I treat my last day as a park day. So I will like check out whatever time. It might be early, like 8:30 or something. I leave my bags with Bell Services, and I go to the park. And then when I come back for Magical Express, I pick up my bags at Bell Services and then get on the Magical Express. So don't feel like you're gonna like lose a day because you don't have to. Let's see, Keys of the Kingdom's awesome. I know a lot of people saying Keys of the Kingdom is great. So do it, Lillian. The free tour at Wilderness Lodge was really good, and everyone on it with me was solo, Daffy Stardust says. Yeah, I did a video about this, about free tours that you can take around the resorts, which is also a really cool thing to check out if you're staying at those resorts, but even if you just want to do it on your own. Yeah, I can see that actually attracting a lot of solo people who are just like, yeah, you go to the parks, I'm going to go see what's going on around in this place. So, yeah. Oh, bye, Fun Disney fan. It was great seeing you and having you come by. Thank you for watching. My Disney Park memory says the guide makes you feel welcome. Yeah, I've never felt like a tour guide didn't make me feel welcome. Again, I'm sure they deal with solo people all the time, and it was probably just my luck that I didn't run into any other solo people, but like, I'm sure people take tours all the time. Daffy Stardust says Tiffin's is great. It is great. It is really, really good. If you are a drinker, the drinks are really good. The cocktails are phenomenal. The service is great. The whole vibe is really, really cool. It's supposed to be like an homage to just the beauty and wonder of travel, and it's really, really good. And then I have one other question that I just want to talk about. Well, yeah, this is a little bit solo and also parties, as we were talking about, but whether or not the different parties are worth the price. I think that they are at least once. Like, I don't know, I don't do it on every trip, you know, I don't do them every trip that I go down at the time frame that there's a party. But I think doing it at least once is worth it. I think the fireworks and the parades are super neat. I think the special character meet and greets are super neat. It's just, there's a different vibe, you know, like the Halloween party has this really fun, crazy vibe, and you get to dress up and go trick-or-treating no matter what your age is. And the Christmas one is just like all Christmas all the time, and all the cast members are like at an 11, you know, like, I don't know. And it's just, there's an experience with the parties that I think are really, really cool. So I think at least once to do them. I don't know if they're like, you should do them every time that you're down, but I think you should do them at least once. Lillian Barr says, what is the best way to hotel hop? Are there any buses going from hotel to hotel? Or do you need transfer at the TTC? Well, you can transfer at any park, but no, there are no hotel to hotel buses. And that is one of the things that I dislike the most about Disney transportation. And I get it. It would be so many more buses and a whole other fleet of drivers on the road if we were going hotel to hotel. Like, it's a lot. But as someone who sometimes likes to eat at other hotels, it has been tough to go from a hotel to another hotel and do that. So often I've taken cabs because I just think that's the easiest way to do it. The kids upstairs are home, so I don't know if you can hear them, but they are now part of this live stream. Yeah, so it is really tough. Otherwise, you could take a bus to TTC, like you said, or I apologize for the noise, guys. Or you can go to a park and then take a bus from there, or Disney Springs and take a bus from there to another hotel. So it is tough, but if you're trying to make a reservation, either give yourself a lot of time or take a cab. I know one time we were eating Hoop-de-Doo and just took a cab from French Quarter to Wilderness, and we just had to do that. Let's see. Andrew Sealer says, is it depressing going alone? I'm really considered doing it sometime in the next few months, but I'm concerned I'll get depressed because last year I went with my longtime ex and I'm worried about it. Bad memories. Yeah, I can see how you could be a little afraid of that, but I think that you have to remember every trip is a new experience. It's a new trip. And you're there to make new memories, I think that you have to think of it as a refresh. And if you're going by yourself, honestly, I've never felt depressed about going by myself. Like, a lot of you guys know my husband Peter is not a big Disney fan. Like, he is just like, oh, okay, we're going to Disneyland, but like he's like dreading it. And I don't go and think like, oh, I'm depressed because he's not with me, or I'm depressed because I'm alone. I think it's just like, it's something that brings me joy. And I think, honestly, solo trips have kind of taught me how to spend more time with myself and do things that I want to do. And I think that if you look at it, it's just a fresh, new experience. I think it'll be really good. I think that you should do it. I can totally understand being afraid of like old memories kind of seeping in, but I think it's going to be a really good experience for you. Liam Lyon says, I have a question, but it's not so trip related. What do you personally think they're going to do for Disney World's 50th anniversary? Rob and I actually talked about this on the most recent TTA podcast. I think we're going to see a new parade. We better see a new parade. They might do like a 50th anniversary fireworks, like how they changed Disneyland's for like the year. That would be really interesting. Obviously you're going to have a butt ton of like special merch. And I think, I don't know. I mean, it's a really big one for them. So but looking at what Disneyland did, I think we can look at that as kind of a indicator of what we're going to see for the 50th. I feel like they might do, sometimes they like to do like special tours and stuff that only run for like a year or two. I'm sure annual pass holders and all of that will see like certain discounts like we saw for our 45th anniversary. It is a pretty big one. So it'll be really interesting, especially with all of the new lands having been opened already by the time that happens. So Daffy Starvis said, I actually fell more in love with Disney on my first trip back after my divorce. It bonded me to the place more than ever. See, so I think that's such an important thing to, don't let past negative experiences take away your love of Disney, like you can definitely have a good time. And it's really awesome to hear that, Daffy, that like it's been so much better for you now. I'm telling you, you get to explore it in your own way, and it's really, really cool. Bye, Julian. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I actually also have to go in about 5 minutes. So I am going to take any last questions that anybody has. This has been so much fun. I love hanging out with you guys. I'm actually probably going to start doing these 2 times a month because I just really enjoy them. Justin Shuck says, do you think it's worth going to Disney World for just a weekend to break up a year gap from going? Yes. I'm the worst person to encourage you to do that. But yes, I have done weekend trips before. I mean, I think it's a little harder if you don't have an annual pass and you know that you're paying for tickets out of pocket. But I think you have to be smart about how you're planning that weekend. Like, do you have a rewards program with a airline? Are you able to get like free flights in any sort of way? How many park days are you gonna do? Can you do non-park hopper to save some money? Maybe you just do all quick service and you stay at an all-star. Like I've done a Friday to Sunday a couple of times, and like, yeah, it's quick and it's fast, and sometimes you're just like, oh my God, I just got here and now I'm leaving. But it's also nice to have a taste of the magic for a little bit. I think you just need to be smart about how you're spending that money to make sure that it's worth it for you. Lynn says, what is the most last minute trip you've ever planned? Mine was a trip I planned in the car on the way down there. That's great. I can't say I've done that last minute. I think it was my first solo trip. The reason I took it was a leap year. So what was that, 2016, I think? And JetBlue was having this ridiculous sale where one way from New York down there was like $29 or $20, whatever, how many days it was in February. And I was like, I can't pass this up. Like, that's a crazy price. Even if I spend whatever I spend to come home, that's crazy. Like, how do I not go? So that was 2 weeks before the trip. And that was why I went solo the first time. Because I was like, this is such a crazy deal. Let me buy the ticket. And if I change my mind, then whatever, I'm just out like $29. But then ended up going. So, but yeah, that was 2 weeks out. So that was the shortest leeway to a trip I've ever taken. Thank you for doing this live stream. And thank you for the tips and responses. You are welcome, Lillian. Human Person says, the thing I love going solo, especially talking with the PhotoPass people and some of the food cart members. Yeah, talk to those cast members. Like, they don't really get to have a lot of like good conversation all the time. Like, they're just dealing with people a lot, dealing with complaints a lot. They rarely get time to like really talk about themselves and stuff. So like, talk to them for a bit, they definitely will appreciate that. It gives them something else to kind of do. Also restaurants, same thing with your waiters, your bartenders, whatever. They love to strike up conversations with people. All right, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up for today. I appreciate everyone who has come out and talked about solo trip planning. If there was a question I did not get to, please, leave that on the comments of like one of my latest videos. You can email me, you can tweet me, and I'll make sure that I answer your questions. My Disney Park memories, thanks for seeing. Oh, thank you for the compliments. I really, really appreciate it. Andrew, go next month solo, do it. I'm already looking at a weekend. I'm not even kidding. I don't know when it's gonna happen, you guys, but let's be real, it's gonna happen. So I'll let you guys know when it happens. Anyway, have a great rest of the day, guys. A great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.